Hello everyone, I'm JJ Dixon, and we are almost to the end of the last week of Black History Month. Boy, that went way too fast. And you know, it's a shame, but it took us all month to get you here. Look at the look on his face. I'm so happy to have with me today, everyone, Christopher Robinson, retired detective from the Sheriff's Office, and you've heard his name come up many times with some of the others who have been here. And Chris played a very integral and influential role with the work of the Brotherhood. So first of all, let's find out, Chris, who are you? Where'd you come from? Let people know who Chris is, since we finally got you here.
Okay. Thanks for having me here. Born in a little town west of here, Watertown, Florida. It's just outside.
Watertown?
Watertown.
Where's that?
It's just outside of Lake City.
Never heard of it before.
Yeah. If you're on US 90,
wow,
you will get to Watertown before you get to Lake City.
So I've been through Watertown many times and didn't even know it.
And didn't know it.
Must not have a sign out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Educated there. Graduated. We had issues since that was the late 50s, early 60s. It was still in Jim Crow, especially there. My grandmother, whose mother was a slave.
So your great-grandmother was born into slavery?
Yes.
Wow, we just spoke to Pastor Newman, and I believe his either great-great-grandmother was born into slavery. Yeah. Wow, okay.
Yeah, and she was always one who gave lessons by examples. We were raised in segregated neighborhoods, of course. And when they said it takes a village to raise a child, during those times, the village raised all the children. You did not want to go and mess up anywhere.
All the villages was going to get
all the villages at some point or another got a part of some of the kids, and to go home and get another one.
Wow.
So it was one of those things where the kids were, by and large, good kids.
If they knew what was best
if they
for
knew
them,
what was best for them. Even in high school, besides going to the back doors and the back windows of restaurants, if we wanted to eat, we would go to those back doors as long as blacks were cooking, because the food was all right. They would tell you, today, you don't want anything from here.
Oh my goodness.
Never mess with a person who's cooking your food.
That's right. Heard that many times.
So after graduating from high school, there wasn't anything there in that small town for me. So I graduated maybe June 2nd, June 3rd, June 4th, 5th.
Out of there.
I was counting cadets.
Wow.
Yeah, it was only a matter of a few days before I was in the military.
So were you drafted, or no, you weren't drafted?
You
volunteered to go.
I volunteered to go.
I asked that question because some of the ones that came through were actually drafted.
No.
Of a land.
I volunteered. Booker T. Washington and I went on the Buddy Buddy plan. The odd thing about it, my best friend from high school, Eugene McCrae, for some reason or another, he got lost in the process. He was out of town or something when we joined. So he joined to follow us. Initially, we were going into the Army, but by the grace of God, a guy in a blue suit happened to walk by when the Army recruiter didn't show up, and he says, "Are you guys wanting to join the military?" We said, "Yes." He said, "I could get you to take the test." We said, "Well, we took the test before we graduated high school." He said, "That guy, the Army guy, always tell y'all to be here at 9 o'clock. He's never on time. If y'all want to join, come on around the corner.
He snatched y'all right up.
Snatched us right up. So the two of us went into the Air Force. Eugene followed us, and in 6 months in the Army, he was dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
After that, 3 years, 6 months, I had something called Palace Chase. They were running people out of the military. That was in 69, 68, 69. And Lieutenant Shapiro, never forget him, came up and said, do you want to make a career of the Air Force? I went, yes, that's my intent. He says, well, you might as well. You can't do anything else. You came to us right out of high school. I went, excuse me?
Trying to limit the possibilities for you.
I said, if I'm good enough for you to want me to stay, I know I can find something else out there. I know in my heart I can find something else. So I came here, went to electronic school, and me and some buddies one night were walking home at Miss Holly's house, where we all stayed. At any rate, over there at 4th and Jefferson.
Wow.
4th and Louisiana. Her house was on 4th and Louisiana. So we walking home from the movies, and this officer stopped us, and we became everything but our names with all the N-words and stuff. And one of the guys, he had been in the Army, brought his weapon home. He said, I'm going to kill somebody tonight. I went, whoa, 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 whoa,
goodness.
whoa, whoa, whoa. I said,
one of the guys that were with you all?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He said, I didn't go over there and fight and come back here to hear this kind of stuff. So I said, look, that's not a good idea. How about the four of us go down? They're giving a test. We take the test. We can make some changes from the inside. I was the only one that passed.
It's going to be a tough job, right?
Yeah, so that was the start of my police career. Yeah.
Wow. So it wasn't really planned that you were going to be a policeman?
No.
You just had that experience and wanted to make a difference?
Wanted to be in the medical field, really.
There's still time.
There's still time, you're right.
So hearing that part of your story kind of helps me to understand your involvement with the Brotherhood. And I want to pause for a minute just to say that, well, I'm not going to pause. I'm going to ask you if you can remember, how many years have you been an active member of the Brotherhood, or just a member of the Brotherhood?
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years. So when you came in with the mindset that you wanted to make some change from within, that's what you meant.
Yes.
And in getting involved in the Brotherhood, in my mind, lend to that theory for you that this organization was a way for you to kind of make some of those changes.
Jacksonville Police Benevolence Association at that time. Yeah.
So, and I know that the Brotherhood, and back in those days, the Benevolent Association, and the very first one was
Negro Police
Savings Club, has taken a lot of heat over the years for being a radical organization, or, well, I'm not going to call the other organization that we're compared to, but we're just taking a lot of heat because people think that we're just a bunch of angry black people.
Yeah. Not so. Any changes that, as an organization, that we made in the furtherance of black equality, not only suited us, it suited everyone. Yeah, if we made it like we did, we made a change in the way people were selected for positions in the detective division. That didn't just help blacks. It helps whites as well, because of the criteria we had set. So, yeah.
But your work with the Brotherhood, and we spoke to a lot of the individuals from back in that era. Specifically, I remember when I remember us speaking to Sheriff Glover and Joe Henry, and all of them came up in the ranks around the time that you did, when it was not popular for African Americans to be in certain positions.
Right.
But because of the work that the Brotherhood and you and those other individuals did, those opportunities start to open up for people.
That was something that we were fiercely advocating that we get blacks in position. For the longest, I was the only black in burglary, and other officers would come up to me and says, "It's time for you to move out, so one of us can come up."
Oh man.
Yeah,
Kind of reminds me of when Barry Brown was here, the pilot.
yeah,
And I don't know if you've seen his episode, but he talked about how McLean was the only black pilot, and then when he was getting ready to go, and he finally was accepted to go into the air unit, it was one of y'all have to come off for one of y'all to stay.
yeah.
So it must have been around the same time period.
No, actually, Barry came. In fact, we had youth patrol at that time. Barry was one of the ones that rode with, rode with me as a youth patrolman. Yeah.
Rode with you?
Rode with me.
Oh, he didn't tell that part of the
I
story.
know.
I can imagine that. Wow,
You know,
that's
this
amazing.
is when I listen to some of the people who have been here. It's like an accident. If you got 10 people who saw that accident, you're probably going to get 10 versions of that accident. So it's the same thing. We're going to have maybe 10, 15 different versions of the same history.
And then understanding that time is limited.
Yes.
So we don't have all day to have this conversation. So you try to get in what you think is, most important, or you're going to answer my questions, and some things you'll leave out. But I'm so glad you told us that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And Barry Brown was Air Hawk 10, I think, for those of you who want to go back and watch it. So, wow, you have really made some serious contributions. And I want to say this also, Anthony Rogers' name keeps coming up as a pioneer, and he truly was and is a pioneer of the movement. But Chris, you were right there side by side with Anthony.
Well, actually, Anthony Hickson was the president of the Police Benevolence Association when I came on in the 70s. L.B. Scott was actually the next president and was influential in it. Then Anthony came along some years later, a few years later. So the militants, as they were calling us, was L.B. Scott, Chris Robinson, John Baptist Wilcox, believe it or not, was one of the people that was in there. Talmadge Dorsey, who was in, we were all in that class that came out of 5 of us, and they said after that they would never hire another.
That many at one time.
That many at one time.
They couldn't handle all
They
y'all
couldn't
at one
handle
time.
outspoken group. It was one of those things. And I don't know if Scott mentioned, I came here looking for a job. I can leave here looking for one. So when people said, I'm worried about my job, I got a family. Well, we had families too.
That's right.
We had families as well, and it was one of those things where we felt that it was important that something be said about things that were going on. And I'd like to think that we made a difference.
You all did certainly make a difference, and I also think it's important now for the younger generation to not let your work be in vain. Don't let your work be in vain, because I think we sometimes, if you didn't see it or if you weren't there to experience it, you don't realize how much of a sacrifice that some people made within their lives, their families, and truly their careers in order for us to be where we are now. A lot of people don't realize that.
I think of it, Brian Jefferson, his father, was at the gas pumps one day. He said, "Hey fellas, look down there at that fella gassing up his car." It says, bright, intelligent, college educated. They said, but he ain't going nowhere. And I looked past it. He
talking
said,
about you.
He says, I'm talking about you. He says, he don't know how to keep his damn mouth shut. So I take pride. I take pride in that.
And you should, because I was just going to say, that's been said about a lot of great legends in history. It's been said about a lot of great people. And the other saying is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so it's admirable that you believed in a certain thing. You came here for that reason. That was your purpose when you came to the sheriff's office, and so you fulfill your purpose. But in the interim, you did a lot of good work with the sheriff's office also. So tell us what units you worked in outside of patrol.
Okay, well, the first almost 5 years of patrol, I was an FTO as a patrol officer, and I don't know if Scott also mentioned the fact that we were one of the first 2 blacks on the honor guard in the 70s. Yes.
Wow.
So
Forgot about the honor guard.
yeah, I was
That's
a field
right.
training officer, member of the honor guard. An officer killed himself and shot his partner. So they went to Lieutenant L.C. Williams, Lewis Calloway Williams, and asked him, he said, do you think Robinson want to go to the burglary office to replace those detectives? And he says, I know I'm close to him, but you probably need to ask him. They didn't ask me, they just put me in
He
there.
told you.
Yeah, so they told me, you're going to burglary. It's ironic, the car that they assigned to me was the one where the shooting took
Oh my
place.
goodness.
And the blood was still in the seats. I had to clean the vehicle myself.
I'm in shock.
There's
They
somebody-
should have, first of all, the car should have probably been deadline.
Yeah.
But I mean, at a minimum.
Yeah.
Clean it.
But at least clean it.
My
But they didn't
Lord.
do that. I'm pressing the seat and there's blood all in
Oh, God.
It was, but it was something to be expected if
Yeah.
you were being vocal about things, and we were. So,
Wow. So I'm glad you brought up robbery, because when Sheriff Glover was here, he mentioned that when he was in robbery, he was a sergeant, and you were also in robbery at the time.
Actually, when I went to burglary, Glover was my first supervisor in burglary. Doyle Haddock came to us and said, at some point after some years, he said, I'm having issues. We have people that we're trying to tail in the black community, so I got 2 white officers sitting in the car.
Right, everybody know you the police.
Everybody know you the police. He says, y'all are asking for blacks to be assigned to certain positions. Why don't you make it a point to ask? I'm going, okay.
Well, now it's convenient for them.
Yeah, now it's convenient.
Right.
Go ahead on and ask. So I was having a lot of trouble with my supervisor in burglary. So Glover took the opportunity to send me to the FBI Academy for hush negotiation training. And as soon as I
didn't know
left,
that. Okay.
as soon as I left, he transferred me to robbery.
Right on to robbery.
Yeah, and Glover wasn't far behind, so they transferred him as well. Yeah, but one of those things, when I was in burglary, we had a pretty effective group of detectives there, and I mean we were
solving
pretty good.
some burglaries.
Yeah, we were solving.
And it just in case people were wondering, burglaries are some of the hardest crimes to solve.
You have only the house to tell you what happened.
And because back then you didn't have DNA and all this other fancy dancy, technology that we use now.
It was a matter of neighborhood canvas, knowing how to talk to people, and I had 2 of the best individuals, Robert George, who was my original field training officer, and Freddie Mack. He was my detective. Name so
many times.
He was my detective trainer, and this man knew how to talk to people, how to get information, and how to keep a secret.
How to keep a secret.
Yeah, if someone, he said, look here, I have a problem with officers who go to a house, knock on the door, and somebody tell them something in confidence. The first thing they do is run back out to their vehicle and call it in.
On the radio.
So the people know where that information came from. He says, what I'd like for you to do is knock on 3 or 4 doors on either side, cross the street, come out saying, this is a waste of time. I don't know why I do it. So if somebody gave you some information, they never knew who it was. And they're trust building. Yeah, there you go. Building. And that was one of my best things. People said, you must have had a lot of informants. No, I didn't. I had a lot of people that I could talk to who would give me information. Wow.
Yeah. Well, Glover also talked about, he actually said you were, I don't remember if he said one of or the best, but anyway, you were up there. The investigators in the robbery unit, and he talked about this memory that you had this impeccable memory. And I had to agree, because you do, but he talked about all the robberies that you were able to solve, and how you were just a brilliant detective, he said. So Kudos to
Well,
you.
thank you.
Kudos to
Well,
you.
thank you.
Kudos to you. So you were in the detective division, the burglary and then robbery, and then where'd you go after that?
After that, I went to intelligence.
Yep.
I was called originally to help a man by the name of Robert Bogers, to help him with computers. But when I got there, they sit down and talked to me and said, we need somebody to do gang presentations around the city.
Yep, I remember
So I
that.
became the city's gang coordinator. I coordinated with the SWAT team, keeping track of gang members and keeping the paperwork and doing these speaking engagements all over the city.
Yeah, and going back to what you just said about the confidentiality of it all and knowing how to keep a secret, working in the intelligence unit required a lot of that, because you come across all kinds of extremely sensitive information and confidential information that you weren't allowed to share.
Yeah, I avoided going to internal because I never wanted to investigate the police.
Another officer,
But I didn't read far enough because at that time we did not have an integrity unit.
Oh, that's right, sure didn't.
Intelligence was the one who investigated police officers for criminal wrongdoing. So I wound up in a place I really didn't want to be. But, I was in there and I did my job.
Yeah,
so.
yes you did. And you
Years.
Yeah.
I spent, if I run it down, 7 years in burglary. I did 16 years in robbery. I did another 6 in intelligence, and I did the last 2 years. I went back to robbery. I wanted to work my way out.
I remember you being in robbery. It seemed like forever.
Yeah.
And people were coming and going and coming and going, and you were a fixture in robbery. You never left, but everybody else was coming and going, and you did a really good job. So I want to ask you, from what year did you start again?
3/3/70.
1970.
Wait a minute, I made a mistake. It was 3/2/70. I got a bad day. My mouth.
3/2/70.
Yeah.
So from 1970 up until the time you retired, you must have had some good days and some bad days. We all do.
Yeah, we all do.
So if you can, I want to know if you had a really bad day on the job. What can you think of one or two, or what did that look like?
July 4th, 1970. A man by the name of Kerry Addison. I stopped him for speeding in this neighborhood, in fact, and being a rookie, I mean, truly just out of field training. He jumped out of the car, approached me real quick, pulled a gun and stuck it in my chest and pulled the trigger.
Oh!
I threw my hand up, and by the grace of God, the hammer fell on my thumb. I didn't even know it. Another officer came up, and as I was putting the gun in my pocket, he said, "You're putting a cocked gun in your pocket," and that's when I looked at it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'll say that was a bad day.
That was a bad day. That was a bad day. And my next worst was June 5th, 1977. I met a gentleman, and he was supposed to have been a Vietnam vet who was out of it, carrying a .357 revolver and a 30-30 rifle. And I managed to backstop a couple of bullets.
My goodness.
That's not a good day.
Not a good day. Not a good day.
He said, the doctor in the emergency room, he says, "You were this close. That bullet could have hit your femoral artery, and you never would have known what was happening to you." So you'd have been gone in about 4 minutes. I was extremely lucky. So it was a bad day, but it was a lucky day.
Jeez.
Yeah. So.
Well, we got to stop and pause for a minute and say thank you for your service, because I don't think many people knew that you had been shot in the line of duty.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, thank you for your service. And I know that it must have been hard for you to continue working there after that, but you did for many, many years.
I stayed in the hospital for a week. I went home for a week, but I went to the doctor and I told him, I said, "Doc, you got to let me back out here. If I don't get back out here and ride this horse, I'd never ride it again." So he said, okay. He cleared me for duty, and I went back.
And you were in patrol at that time, or you were in burglary?
I was in burglary.
In burglary, you were in burglary. Wow. Well, hats off to you for doing that, and not only for going back to continue to serve the citizens of Jacksonville, but to also continue your mission
Yeah.
of making sure that there was fairness and equality
Yeah.
throughout the police department. So thank you for that. So those were bad days. Now, did you have any really good days? I'm sure you did.
I was a negotiator for 22 years.
Oh, my goodness. I'm
And
learning all kinds of stuff today.
I had the pleasure of saving lives in that capacity. So those were good days.
Oh,
those
yeah.
were good days
Oh, yeah.
when you can actually talk someone out of killing themselves or killing someone else. Yeah, it's good days.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So throughout your years, I know that you have received numerous commendations for your work because you just were a phenomenal officer and detective. Do you have one that sticks out in your mind more than others?
We had one guy who they called the $1 Million Bandit. He robbed enough businesses
Oh my goodness.
to get that.
Good Lord.
My partner and I, Dalton Lamar Hill, and we caught this guy and got him to confess to a number of robberies and got him about 4 or 5 life sentences
For robbery?
for robbery.
My goodness.
Yeah, so
Wow,
Yeah.
you were good.
that was, you're only as good as the people who are around you who
That's
helped you.
true. That's true. That's
and,
true.
so this was not a I thing. It was we did a wonderful job on that because it took all of us to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, and then you had another one through the Brotherhood, because you've been working with the Brotherhood, like you say, you've been a member for over 50 years, so you had another one through the Brotherhood, and we have that one somewhere, don't we?
I think you might have a plaque or something up.
Oh,
yeah.
it's this one, okay.
Actually,
Is it this one? It says Edward Hickson Founders Award.
That was
Jacksonville
probably,
Brotherhood
that was one I was
Officers.
proud of. but
Oh,
this
here's another
yeah,
one.
The Charlie C.
Oh, the
Award.
Jacksonville Police Benevolent Association Sergeant Charlie C. Award presented to Chris Robinson for outstanding services rendered to his profession and his community, and that was in 1975.
Yeah.
Tell us about Charlie C.
Charlie C. was one of the first 6. Also, he was killed in the line of duty. And we thought it would be fitting if we could name an award after him because he was a trailblazer. He was one of the sergeants that was out there at that time.
Yeah.
While I did not know him, it was good to kind of look at the articles that was written about him.
Right.
And naturally, at that time with the Florida Time Union, there was the colored section where the shooting was reported.
Wow. So you received that award from the Brotherhood, which was and still is a prestigious award. Because you got to think, coming from the Brotherhood, it means it's coming from all of the minority officers.
Right.
They thought enough of you to say that you were the best of the best.
And that's why
back then
I'm
in
so proud of that
1978.
particular award. I have other awards, but
Yeah.
that one is one of my pride and joys.
Awesome. And then this one was from 1992.
Yeah.
You received that award, and then I must say that you are still an active member, an officer in the Brotherhood, holding office and still doing the work of the organization. So, man, you are truly you're a living legend. That's what they call it, a living legend. Seriously, because you are still, you're still very vocal and outspoken, just like before. If you believe in something, you're going to stand up for it, and that's honorable. And so on behalf of the Brotherhood, and I know you're a member, but I'm just telling you, on behalf of the Brotherhood, we thank you for all that you have done and what you're continuing to do to make sure that fairness and equality remains a part of policing in Jacksonville.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that. So we talked about your best days and your and your worst days. Is there anything that you want to talk about specifically before we get to these pictures? These pictures.
We can do without the pictures.
No, we get to those pictures. Because I think you brought your little brother's picture in here, something. We'll get to that.
One of the things that Scott, Anthony, and I hopped on was letting the people that are being recruited now that are being recruited for the police department now, letting them know that there were people who made God offer sacrifices for us to be in the position that we are in today. And it seems like the ones that we're getting now seem to think that, yeah, nobody did this for me. I did this on my own.
That's right. You're right.
But somebody had to kick those doors open where you could walk through them. And unfortunately, some of the kids are stopping short of that, stopping short of the door and not walking through. We need to find a better way to get them into that door and through it. And as an organization, I think that we're trying to set up mentoring for the new officers that are coming on, only if they take advantage of it. They have to take advantage of it. We can't go out and beat them into it. They have to want to do it.
Because there are officers that have come through here. I'm trying to remember who it was that said Ken Jefferson was one. Yeah. When they were being recruited, or when they were preparing to go to the police academy, that there were a group of African American officers who would take them, aside. And I know you were part of that. Yeah. And you all would kind of give them a heads up. Yeah. You would prepare them and train them in every area that they were going to be faced with. Yeah. Whether it was an interview, report writing, getting out there doing the physical stuff. Yeah. I mean, all of it. The Brotherhood had that covered. Yeah. And even to the point where he said when they got to the finish line at the academy, when they were doing the run, that Glover would be at the finish line as a somebody with stars and bars on, cheering them on. So that is all of that stuff used to be done. But like you just said, they have to want to take advantage of it. Yeah. And I think that people now think that just having the mandatory 4-year degree is enough. Nah. And they don't realize, a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices. Some people's careers went absolutely nowhere because they spoke up about injustices. And there were injustices. Let's just be real. Yeah. There were injustices that were being done. They spoke up about it, and change had to happen because of what you all did. And I just wish that this generation, I hope they watch this, but I just wish that they could truly understand the sacrifices that they were made. And that's why I'm so glad you came, because a lot of times we think that was, 100 years ago.
No, not by a long shot. No. This is just down the road. Recently.
Some of the people who made those sacrifices are still living to talk about it. Yeah. And I think it's almost a slap in the face when you don't acknowledge that this happened. Yeah. When you don't acknowledge that someone else paved the way for you, to be where you are. Yeah. I just think it's a slap in the face. So I hope that message gets out there and it gets out there clearly. Now let's look at these pictures here. I want to say that, and I'm going to share these with everybody. I want to say that this one is the oldest one, but apparently it's not, because I see you wearing a blue uniform. Now, was this a corrections uniform or a police? This was the police uniform
in 1970 when I came on.
It looks just like the corrections uniform from the 80s.
Well, the department never wanted to waste anything, so...
hand-me-downs. Ooh, that's a shame. Yeah. That's a shame. Well, Mr. Fluker talked about that uniform, but I guess I had the wrong one before. No. Because when I started in corrections, this was the shirt that I had. Yeah. Well, the light blue shirt.
That was the uniform that we had.
So we had that one. And then I'm gonna move around a little bit because I want to share these. Well, I can just point at it because I'm gonna put it on the screen big. But this one up here behind us, it looks like a military. Is that your military?
That was in the United States.
So that one was before this one.
Yes.
And how old were you on that one?
19, 20.
Wow, that's when you were in the military. Yeah. And thank you for your service again, especially volunteering to go. Yeah. So, and then we have this one.
Which is just a colorized version. They did, when I was having the pictures made, he said, let's do a couple with the full uniform and your hat on and everything. Yeah. So, and they did.
My goodness, something to be proud of, something to be absolutely proud of. Did you have some more you wanted to share? Is that that looks like a detective picture.
Actually, this is my class from the FBI Academy. It was a negotiation class. We even had people from Germany in that class.
Look at you with your little bell bottom suit on.
Oh, no, that's not me then.
Yes, it is. And even two blacks on here. Maybe you didn't realize they were bell bottom.
Yeah, that's the thing. We
Nice,
had a
nice,
diversity.
nice. Oh my God! Look at Glover.
Yes.
Who is this over here on the right?
Oh, George Marshall.
Is that George Marshall?
Yes.
Sure is. Oh my goodness! And then you over here.
Yeah.
And that looks like Spates up top.
It is.
Oh my Lord.
We were the
Wow.
first class of the diversity instructors,
Wow.
and was not well received.
Well, I tell you what, this is a diverse group
Yeah, oh,
of
yes.
diversity instructors.
Right.
I mean, you have females, you have white and black males. Wow, this is awesome.
I forget the
nice
name of the group. The two individuals.
Love with glasses on.
Yes, this couple here. They were the ones who ran the program, and they are the ones who made
okay.
certain that diversity was diverse.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
This is awesome. We need to get back to these days. We need to get back to these days.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing those
Certainly.
with us.
Yeah.
You have certainly had a stellar career. Now, when did you leave? Because you've been gone for a minute.
I left in 2005, March 25th.
2005.
Yeah, like I said, I did 35 years and 23 days. One of them
Who's
was
counting?
Yeah, one of them was a bad day. I missed court, and there were two other individuals, a sergeant and another patrol officer, both white. They called me in and said, "You missed court." I said, "Okay, you're gonna have a day off, or you're gonna work a day." And I'm going, "This is the first time I've missed." And they said, "Well, we want to give you some time to think about it." That was about 9 or 10 o'clock. So I went to eat at a little restaurant on 7th and Pearl, and the guy who also missed court was in there, and he was laughing. He said, "There's Chris. He missed court. He's gonna get a day off, and you know why, don't you?"
Wow.
And
so blatant.
Very blatant. So I went back and I told him, I said, "I'm not working an extra day. When is my 2 days off?"
2 days off.
Yeah, well, my regular
Right.
days off. I said, "When are my regular days off?" I said, "You could tack that one on to my regular day. Give me 2 or 3 days off."
Wow.
Yeah.
So you all you endured a lot.
Yeah.
You all endured a lot.
We did. We did.
Yeah, Rita was on here talking about how they used to just use the N word like it was,
Yeah.
just a normal word.
It was like, and I'm not dressing it up or anything. I got one running. One what? I got a nigger running. And
On the radio?
on the radio. On the radio. Lieutenant Williams, I call him my dad. He was really my mentor. He's the one who kind of guided my steps. He was a lieutenant, and somebody broke in and stole off Florida Avenue, stole a shotgun out of one of the patrol cars. "Somebody done broke into my car. These niggas over here done stole my gun." And Lieutenant Williams came on the air. He said, "What was that?" And the officer repeated it. So he called him in and reprimanded him.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
But let me ask you this, because that was a lot to deal with, especially coming from your upbringing and where you came from. It was a lot to deal with. So, and I think I asked Mr. Fluker this question, and you could take a minute to think about it if you need to, but how were you able to deal with all of the words, the deeds, all of that, the negative things that were being said and done back then, but you were still able to continue on and finish out your career? How were you mentally able? What did you do? How did you get through that era?
My grandmother who raised me. My who raised me was such a positive influence, a positive role model. She made things simple for you. You are who you are. Know who you are. All those words out there don't mean a thing. She said, you are my son. You're a smart young man. Go to school. Get a good education. And all that stuff that's being said with that good education and knowing who you are,
you can overcome it.
you can overcome it. Let it roll off your back like water off of a duck's back. Do not internalize all that, because if you do, at some point all that stuff will fester.
That's right.
And it will come out in a negative way. So I never let that bother me. In fact, I was telling somebody, we were poor, but I didn't know it. I really, I did not know we were poor until I looked back. You know, I would come home, she said, take off your shoes. I took off my shoes, take off my pants and shirts. She would wash them, iron them, and have them ready to go the next day. So she instilled pride and integrity in you. She was an amazing woman.
Wow.
And the cakes that y'all talk about.
Oh, that's where you get that from.
That's where I get that from.
Taught him how to bake those pound cakes. Oh my goodness. My goodness. Well, it's funny you say that, and I'm gonna just say this: another mama's boy.
Absolutely.
You joined the ranks of John Allen Newman and Tony Davis and
I'm proud
all
of
the other ones.
Proud of it.
That's beginning to be a common thing around here. These successful men were kind of molded a little bit by great women.
Not a little bit. Not a little bit.
Oh, wow.
We were molded a lot.
By great women.
By great women.
Yeah.
By great women. By great women.
Funny,
By great women.
It's funny you say that. Even Lynette she literally said the same words the other day when we were talking to them about how Mr. Fluker, used to just kind of get the whole community together and everybody would just have fun and eat and do all this kind of stuff. And she said, you never really knew you were poor.
Yeah.
You never knew it. And I gotta tell you never knew it.
No.
I remember we would come home from school and my mom she would make homemade biscuits.
Yeah.
And every one of the kids, at one point there was 10 of us in the house, although only 5 were hers.
Yeah.
Every one of the kids would have their own little thing laid out. You have your whatever. And we thought, we must have plenty of money. Well, it was flour and water.
Yeah, that's it,
it was flour and water.
Biscuit and syrup.
And that's right, biscuit and syrup. And most time homemade syrup. And you just thought that you just really thought, we must have it going on. We got all this going. We're just as poor as we could be. But you just did not
I tell
know
them, I said we were so poor that we spelled it P.O. because we couldn't afford the O&R.
No, right. Totally agree. But you know what? Those were truly the good old days.
They were.
Because you look at people now that have anything that you could desire, and they're miserable.
They're miserable because, like I said, in that community, we were all one. Then we separated, and we're here, we're there, and we're not the cohesive unit that we once were. We're not, and even as a people, we're not.
And then everyone's scurrying around trying to acquire things. And things don't make you happy. I mean, it's good to have things. Don't get me wrong, but things don't make you happy. Love is what makes you happy, and community is usually the equivalent to love. So
and that's what it was. We had the 3 pillars. You had your community, you had the schools, and you had the church.
The church, that's it.
And those 3 took care of everything. Yes,
they really do. Well, Chris, I just want to thank you. I'm so glad you came. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. And I'm just, I'm trying to think. Of all of the people that I've talked to, and I think you're 21 or 22 for Black History Month 2025, I think you are probably one of the only ones who is really still active in a movement, who started in the 70s on the belief that you just wanted fairness and equality for people, and you are still, all these years later, you're still working towards that end goal. And who knows when we'll get there, but I hope we get there before we die.
Yeah, truly.
I hope that happens.
Yeah, but I want to thank you for having me here and giving me an opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if you didn't tell your story, we'd have had to go into March, Cinco de Mayo or something. We'd have had to get that story in.
Yeah.
So I truly thank you. And I want to also just say once again that Christopher Robinson is still an active member and an officer in the Jacksonville Brotherhood of Police Officers. So everything that we do as an organization, everything that we are as an organization is also a credit back to you, because you're one of the original, well, I say original, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know.
From back in the day, who has hung in there with us, not giving up. I know you've been frustrated. There have been challenges. There have been different fires that pop up from time to time throughout the years, but you storm off, but you always come back. You always come back and remember that there's work still to be done. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank
Any
you.
parting words?
I'm good.
You're all done.
I'm all done.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, subscribe to our channel, and share this story, because living legacy, remember those words. We will see you on the next one. Thank you, Chris.
Thank
That
you.
was wonderful.